Here we go at the lovely studios of WSAN Radio, located at 502 Montana on the corner of Hackberry. We are in this black museum here. It's called the William Historical National Museum. We do a lot of our interviews and guest appearance right here in this spot where I'm sitting at. If you want to see more of our guests and see our past interviews, go to our YouTube channel. That's WSAN Radio SA. And once you go to that channel, you be going down rabbit holes. You want to see what did he say here, what happened here, what happened there. So we're here for you. This is your platform, San Antonio. So come on board, come on down, and join the train ride, and come listen to WSAN Radio, San Antonio, Texas. Good morning, Joseph from Japan.
Good morning from Typhoon Central here in Okinawa, Japan. Hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. I'm getting a signal that my mic is hot, so hopefully you hear me. We're going through the hot spot of my iPhone because our internet is down here, but we are blessed to have power. The wind is kicking up somewhere, sometimes around 100 degrees. So I'm gonna do a little, just show y'all what I'm talking about real quick. You ever heard of a hurricane before? This is what it sounds like. Or not a hurricane, a typhoon. That's what it sounded like over here.
Man.
But this building is so strong, the concrete and all the things that is built in, the Japanese can really build a strong building, because I'm seeing, if we were in San Antonio, this building would be in Austin right now. It's amazing, man. It's amazing, but you know, it seems like it's a little quiet right now, but in a second you'll hear it kick in, and I'll probably have to shut the window. But the way that this building is built is just structurally pretty amazing. It's really kind of giving me a testament on, you know, how you build a strong foundation. And there's some biblical things about, you know, being grounded on the rocks. You hear it?
Yeah.
And this is, I don't know if you hear that wind, but this is after it's died down significantly. So you can go online and see the pictures. We've had vehicles moved, all kind of stuff. A lot of damage, you know, wires down, things of that nature. But apparently this is one of the worst typhoons they've had in years. So, but, you know, hey, we're in a nice, solid building. God is good, and we're blessed. So thanks to all the prayers for the folks here in San Antonio. We had a little chat going last night and a lot of jokes and all that, but we are here. We're solid, and my faith is strong. So we're gonna keep it moving on. So I'm gonna shut this window. We're not going to hear each other here pretty soon.
Okay.
But maybe I should leave it here so y'all can hear this typhoon. I don't know.
No, we don't want to hear. We want to hear you today.
Y'all want to hear me? All right.
Now, what I did was, normally we talk about a subject that we're going to talk about, but I don't know if I blindsided you on this one, because I was talking to Glenn. I said, man, I hit Joseph up with something and didn't even ask. And but I'm pretty sure Glenn said, oh, he'll be able to handle it. Because job burnout and depressions, I was reading something last week, and that's what brought to my attention, that sometimes burnout could lead to depression. They sort of go hand in hand. And when I posted this, this is what we're going to talk about, I got replies back right away like, wow, yes, yes, yes. I never got bombarded with that many yeses they're going to tune in before. And I never knew this topic will be so overwhelming for people to, so for us to talk about. And this is just out the blind side. And, you know, I put it this way, at least I didn't ask you this question at the end of the hour.
Well, I appreciate it. It gives me some time to kind of lay out the answer in a professional way, and kind of gets to one of the main veins of what we started the show about, which is the mental health piece. We always get into politics, but to be honest with you, you know, a lot of that's good. No, we do need to cover it a little bit, but I'm going to get into this because I think, you know, this is something that definitely a lot of people have experienced. I can speak personally to having job burnout during the pandemic. I think at one point I got up to 60 clients online, just on the online platform. I still just have my contractual obligations, still trying to do crisis calls. And I found myself really going through some of these symptoms that we're going to talk about now. So we're talking about two different things. We're talking about job burnout. We're also talking about depression. So that was what I saw as the question that we posed, like, what is the difference between job burnout and depression? You're right. Job burnout can lead to things like depression, but understand though, the depression is actually a clinical diagnosis. All right. Job burnout is not. That's more of a phenomenon. That's actually considered job related stress, right? But any type of stress that goes unchecked can go into other things like depression. So to kind of give you, kind of what that looks like, when you find yourself in a situation at work where you kind of feel like it's just like a job exhaustion, where you have maybe more work that you feel that you can accomplish. You start bringing things home that you should leave, at the office, and that also can be psychological things. So you got to be careful when you get into boundaries being broken and people bringing all their personal issues to work and taking on other people's personal issues at work. You can get exhausted from that, and then dealing with COVID, dealing with sickness and illness, and everybody has personal issues that they go through, but kind of not allowing yourself to focus on the job when you're at the job, bringing all your issues to work, and then also not having a sense of control of your job, a sense of, hey, I keep getting all this stuff piled on me. I don't see an end to it. It can really lead to you having some serious, symptoms, and this can be a serious issue that can lead to depression, which I'll kind of define a little bit later. But since we're talking about job burnout, some of the things that can happen, could be, some things you can look at is if you're always cynical at work. If you feel like you have to drag yourself. We've all had jobs before where you feel like you have to get up. Oh God, I got to go to work today, and you feel like you start to get depressed or upset at the end of the weekend. Because Monday's coming. And some of that may be normal for some folks because you really enjoy the weekend. But if it really becomes an issue where you start feeling the signs of depression or feeling really down before you go to work, when you're feeling like there's a lack of energy, where you're not really being productive, where you can't really concentrate at work, when you have achievements and things that happen at work and you're not getting job satisfaction, and then you start possibly leaning on other things to kind of get through after work, or have to hurry up and go to the bar after work every day, or drink, or using, feel like you have to get food, to kind of help yourself feel better. Like some people sympathy eat, or some people eat to, medicate themselves or make themselves feel better. Like some people have comfort foods, and you find yourself doing that. That can lead to weight gain and all kind of things. Sleep habits, having uncontrolled or unexplained headaches, stomach problems, entering in kind of like a fight or flight response where your body starts going to a defensive, movement where you're leading into anxiety, panic attacks. A lot of things can happen from work exhaustion, right? So just understand that it's a serious issue, and how you can kind of address it. Now, I'll get into depression a little bit later, but when you I feel like you're having some type of issues with work, a lot of times you can look at your EAP program, your employment assistance program, and there are some companies that now are offering mental health days, right? So when you feel like you're starting to have some of these symptoms, or things are starting to kind of move, into the unhealthy realm, you can take a day just to kind of recenter yourself. And when I say recenter yourself, take some time and not think about anything to do with work. Do something, where you can kind of relax, go to a movie, get out, spend time with family, or just spend time being still. It's really difficult for some people to just be still. They always have to be in front of a TV, in front of your phone, in front of something, and it really, to be honest with you, that's really unhealthy. That's a part of that exhaustion. You go from one busy activity to then go into another busy activity. When do your brain and your body have a chance to heal and recoup? So I found myself when I was right there in San Antonio, Texas, when I had all the clients I was seeing on outreach burnout, what I realized is I had a treadmill literally in my office. I know you're laughing at me now because this is, don't judge me, but I actually had so many clients that I barely had time to get on the treadmill that was right in my office, right?
Yeah.
Because when I got done dealing with all the problems, I wanted to go right outside my office and sit on the couch and go to sleep until my next, group of clients, I was about to see. So when you're dealing with, job after job after job or workload after workload after workload, you can find yourself, getting burnt out, and you have to set some boundaries for yourself. I think that's one of the first things you have to understand is that, look, I talk about the power of the 3/8. You have 8 hours for work, 8 hours for your personal time, and then 8 hours for sleep. And it's not, by chance that I picked 3/8. Because if you do your math, right, 3/8 equals what? 24, right? So every day, if you are doing that correctly, if you're working 8 hours a day, spending family time, personal time, going to the gym, all that for 8 hours, and then give yourself 8 hours of sleep, you can use as a guide to kind of make sure things are kind of on track, right? But when you find yourself constantly working or working, bringing work home, things of that nature, you're going to start pulling from those other areas, work or sleep, and doing your personal self-maintenance. And you should always, one of the things about job burnout is you don't do self-care. Self-care is very important with any job that you're doing. Taking some time during the day, you get a break or something just to zone out, not think about anything, relax, get something to eat. Make sure you take some time to do some self-care every day at work and then also after work. So that should be a goal for everybody, to do some self-care at work and then after work. Now, what does self-care look like? You get a lunch break. Don't go and gossip about the job when you're on your lunch break. You're not on break at that point. You're still working if you're gossiping, talking about the job.
Yeah.
Also, stop being the job therapist. I get paid to do what I do, right? And people, a lot of times, they want to come and tell me their problems. Sometimes I listen, but I say, hey, man, we're not on the clock. I've had to tell people sometimes to come and talk to me, hey, man, can I talk to you for a minute? Yeah, you can talk to me, but you're not talking to Mr. Lee, LPC. You're talking to Mr. Lee. So I'm going to give you some little quick things I would give just maybe anybody. But no, some people are actually trying to help people with clinical issues at work. And yeah, that's one of the quickest ways that you can, exhaust yourself. Because one of the things is, you ever got those friends, I might be talking to somebody that's listening right now, that they keep coming to you with the same problems, the same issues with relationships, same issues with the job, but they don't do anything about it but come and talk to you. That's going to drive both of y'all crazy. Because as therapists, I'm not going to keep talking to you about the same problem in the same way. One of us is going to get fired, and I will fire a client. If you set up a treatment plan, all that type of stuff. Look, understand, when you come in here to do a job, you're not there to be the job therapist. I know some people, they just have that natural ability, thank God. I was one of those folks people come and talk to about their issues and all that. Well, I figured out a way, okay, this is my knack. I went to school, got educated on it, got a license, and now it's my profession. But I also know that there's people at work that try to do that. And here's the thing, if you don't know what you're doing, you can actually enable the person to keep the problem going and not ever fix the problem, right? So it's bad all the way around. So it's burning you out, it's messing them up, and nobody's going anywhere. What's that saying? The blind's leading the blind.
Yes.
You may have some, I think that fits right there, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm just talking about one particular issue, but there's so many other ways you can have burnout. Really, it's a lot of times when you're out of balance, and you keep pouring work and your effort into something and it's not working out, it's not working the way you should. I think sometimes you just have to back up and go, hey, if you're working that hard, if you can't fit your workday into 8 hours, something is wrong, either with your workload, with the way you're going about things. And I know, I talk to a lot of people, they're in the military, whatever. Sometimes you're going to have to push and do some additional work and all that. Well, remember, take some time away from, if you're working, over those 8 hours, you got to give yourself that time back on the weekend or something to recoup and heal yourself. Yeah. Think of yourself, think of yourself like a vehicle. If you run it hard and don't give it the things it needs, oil, let the engine cool off, whatever, what's going to happen? It's going to burn out.
Yeah.
It's going to burn up, literally.
Yeah.
So, so think of yourself in that way. If you're pushing hard, pushing hard, pushing hard, then you're going to need to give yourself a break. You're going to have to, take advantage of one of those mental health days. If you were going through a stressful thing at work and then a stressful thing at home, you really need to, figure out how to manage that. Now, do you think any questions on job burnout before I move on to depression?
Well, I want to jump on. Viewers are coming on right now. I want to let everybody know we came on a little early, 15 minutes early, because Joseph Lee is in the middle of a typhoon, and we don't know how long his internet's going to last. So, if those who had jumped on right now, we started early, and it's a good reason why we started early, because he's not blown away, but he had the window open. You can hear the wind howling and everything. So I appreciate it. I see that for Cheryl, Craig, Sharon, and a few others have chimed in already. So just letting everybody know that's the reason why we came on early, and we're going over job burnout and depression. So if there's any questions on job burnout, come back with us right now. We can also address it later on, but that's where we're at right now. Joseph was just going over job burnout. So any question on job burnout, chime in and we'll get to it. But I'm going to let Joseph continue where he left off at.
All right, yeah, give a shout out to Craig Washington. How you doing, brother, over there from the Impact team in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Also, Cheryl. What's going on, Queen V? Hope everything's going well. Sharon Bell, see you on there. But just going through, so we kind of covered, job burnout, what it is. It's not a clinical diagnosis. It's more job-related stress. And now, if it's not managed, it's one of the ways it can transfer over to something clinical, which is depression. So looking at depression, the actual definition for depression, it's a code, MDD. You can look it up, major depressive disorder, or simply known as depression. It's a clinical diagnosis, right? And to kind of let you know, kind of when you're in depression, it's a diagnosis that has criteria, right? So, usually if you are in this state for about 2 weeks consistently, if you stay in this mood for 2 weeks consistently, and it's a pervasive low mood, low self-esteem, loss of interest, and I'm looking at the diagnostic code as well to kind of let everybody know what this is. Loss of interest in normally enjoyable activities, low energy. You can also have pain that you can't explain. And actually, when I first started my practice, I actually partnered with a clinician, a psychologist at a pain clinic. And we used to, once we help people out of depression, sometimes their pain symptoms would go away, right, that they were experiencing. And sometimes, there were medical reasons for it. Sometimes there are psychological reasons for it. So depression definitely can elicit pain, which shows that brain body connection. And some of it, obviously can be genetic, environmental factors, psychological factors. I think back in 2000, there's some stats here and how pervasive this is. Back in 2017, the major depressive disorder affected about 163 million people, right? So worldwide. So you got to look at that. It's a pretty big deal, and those are just reported numbers. That's not ones that were unreported. And that was actually before the pandemic. Was really going on. So you can only imagine what happened during the pandemic and why what happened with people losing folks and losing control of their jobs and lives and livelihoods a lot of times, what can happen with that. So now the thing about depression, when you have major depressive disorder, this is not something you can have treated just by talking to a friend. This is a clinical diagnosis. Sometimes it can get better somewhat, but they actually have this treated. This is a treatable illness.
Well, I see that Joseph froze on us. Let's hopefully he'll come back uh, from being frozen. But like I said, we signed on a little early. That's one of the reasons why, because of what's going on out there in Japan. They have a typhoon that went straight over him. Um, it'd be at nighttime for us, but it's daytime during over there. So we were talking about job burnout, what takes place with job burnout, and we'll see if we come back on. Now, job burnout is real. I'm gonna let you know because I started DJing, and he'll probably sign back on. And I worked a full-time job and DJed on the weekends. Well, I turned around and I got burnt out on DJing. And I think the reason why I got burnt out was, believe it or not, was some of the people. They were being so, I want to hear this song, I want to hear this, and they just get there, they start demanding, and it got to the point that I just got fed up and listened to all that. I wanted to go ahead and do what I wanted to do, and but sometimes that happens. And so I got burnt out, so I dropped out of DJing altogether for a while. I mean, I think when I dropped out, then I moved back to, then I moved to San Antonio, and people recognized that I was a DJ and wanted me to get back into it. Well, it took a while for me to get back into it, but finally I did, and that's when I started a radio station, because burnout is for real, and I wasn't taking care of myself. I would go from one job to the other. I wasn't doing the 3/8. I was doing to feed the crowd what they wanted to hear, and at the same time, I didn't know I was burning myself out. So I just stopped. I mean, it wasn't like a gradual thing I stopped. I just stopped. Cold turkey, just stopped. And yes, I felt guilty, but at the same time, I felt relieved because I didn't put up with any of that stuff anymore. I sold all my equipment, left it alone, got me a 95, tried to stay on my 3/8, but I felt much better doing that. And at the time, I didn't go seek help. I just told myself that's enough, and that's what I did. So Joseph is back now. I was filling in while you disappeared, Joseph.
Well, hey man, sounds like you're giving some good advice. But that's actually what happens to a lot of people. They either get to a breaking point where they're like, look, enough is enough. I can't go on like this. And you have to make some changes. So it's really important because you can find yourself gradually being put into a situation where you find yourself exhausted or going through depression. Depression sneaks up on you, right? It's like a gradual thing where you just kind of start falling away from yourself, not being yourself, and you just can end up really kind of finding yourself going, man, how did I end up here? And it's a gradual thing, especially for guys as well as women. It's not a gender thing. We take on too much. One of the things that I know I've talked to, I've heard Craig say this about a week or so ago. I push this to my clients all the time. You have to learn how to say no, right? When people put things on your plate that you can't handle or you can't do, you think you're doing the right thing or doing something nice, you have to say no. Or just say, hey, I don't have the bandwidth for this. All right. You find your own way of saying it, but no would do just fine. No, I can't do it. My grandfather used to have this saying back in the day, and I appreciate the genius of it. He would just say, sorry about that. And if he says sorry about that, that's it. And he can't do it. It's not going to get done. He's had his final say. Hey, Grandpa, I need you to do this. So, hey, he had another plan. Sorry about that. Can't do it, right? And he was able to be very successful in life because he realized his limitations, how much time and energy. He used to have this other saying, stop spinning your wheels, right? Which meant kind of you're putting too much energy in something that you should be able to get a hold of with a lot less work. And that's how you avoid burnout. That's how you avoid ending up depressed because you're taking on, sometimes the issue is taking on too much. And then also what happens is it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you're doing too much at work, things get unmanaged, and then things maybe start going off the rails at home. And you find yourself spending time fixing everything. You're just being a maintenance person, trying to fix what's going on wrong with your job, fix what's going on at your house, fix what's going on with your sleep. Then tack on eventually is going to be what's going on with your health. So then so you kind of have to unplug and go, look, am I doing my 3/8? If I'm not doing my 3/8, if I can't get all my work done in 8 hours, spend time with my family 8 hours, and get 8 hours of sleep, I'm probably not doing something right. And here's the thing: the effects of that are things like burnout and depression. Okay, so that's the result of sometimes not being in balance and not having boundaries set up and telling people no, understanding what you are doing when you go to work. Work can actually be a place of healing if you stay within the boundaries. When you go to work, go to work. Leave your personal life at home, leave the issues you're dealing with at home, and focus on your job. When my mother passed a few years ago, I instead of taking more time off, it was better for me to fly back down to Texas and get back to work. Why? I had to get back into the routine. I don't want to sit there depressed and thinking about all the things that I wish had happened in our lives, and wish my mother was still here, and all the things that we would be able to look. I didn't want to do that. I had to get in my routine. I grieved the way I needed to grieve, but I left that when I flew back down to Texas. It was time to get back to work, and then I had my times off, and when I'm here in beautiful Okinawa, Japan, I meditate and I give messages to my mother as best I can, and poetry and all that type of stuff. That's how I deal with it. But when you take your problems to work, then you start to blur your personal problems with your work problems, and then you're constantly in your problems. No surprise how you end up with exhaustion. So as a therapist, that's one of the main things I do working with folks in the workplace, is how to separate those layers, put everything in the right category so that you can process it the way you need to process it, and move on. So depression sometimes even has to be medically dealt with. So sometimes people that are in major depressive disorder, sometimes temporarily have to be medicated. Now, I don't, as a therapist, I don't, I try to find non-medical means, but when the cognitive behavioral means and other means aren't enough, sometimes, I recommend they go talk to their primary care physician and look at some anxiety meds or some antidepressants. And it's usually, I really push for that to be as temporary as possible. Sometimes after a loss of a loved one or whatever, and the person can't get out of it. Sometimes I recommend that they go on. But we've tried everything in the book before I go with medication.
Yeah.
So,
well,
if it's so, it just depends on what I'm looking at too. So.
Okay. You brought up the part by just saying no. I remember I told you about the time that I was down at Legacy Park when that one lady came up to me. She was talking to me, and she stumped her foot and demanded, "You look at me when I talk to you." And I said, "Excuse me?" And so I thought that was it, right? Well, I went down to help out to feed the homeless this past Saturday with Reverend Lee. You're not gonna believe who showed up. She did. And this is what happened. This is what happened. I was interviewing, and she said, "What you doing?" I said, "I'm getting ready to interview Reverend Lee and all that stuff." "Well, can you interview me?" I said, "No, not at the time." She said, "Well, why not?" I said, "Because I have time allocated for Mr. Lee. Here's another Lee for Mr. Lee, Reverend Lee. I have time allocated for him. Then I have to go do other obligations that I'm doing on Saturday." "Well, that's not fair. So when can I be interviewed?" I said, "Well, when I get time permitted, I'll do that. But I won't be down until next fourth Saturday, because they do it every fourth Saturday." She said, "Oh, okay," and just walked away like nothing ever happened. But she was demanding that I interview her right then and there. So I just took the way out, which I was obligated for other things time-wise. But when you say it's hard to say no, you have to sometimes to keep your sanity.
Listen, like I said, I tell people all the time, and you can use that line that my grandfather used. "Sorry about that," and leave it at that. I don't have time to explain what I don't have time to explain. Plus, you don't know if a person is crazy or not.
Yeah.
And I know in San Antonio and a lot of major cities, there's a high probability if the actions aren't matching the situation, the person might be off. We already know, we covered that I think a couple shows ago.
Yeah.
How full the mental health facilities are there. I got to give a shout out to Judge Yolanda Huff too, the mental health court judge, who is really, really a shining star here in the San Antonio area, that really believes in trying to help the mental health issues instead of just incarcerating folks, getting the help they need and the mental health services they need so that they don't end up incarcerated and longer times than need be when it's a psychological issue and getting them the help they need. So I was keynote speaker a while back there and really got to see when it's done right. When things go wrong psychologically, people make mistakes and sometimes end up in bad situations, especially when the mental health facilities are overrun and there's not enough services available, not enough funding available. Sometimes people end up in jail, right? Incarcerated for situations that if they had the coping skills, the correct mental health services, maybe they wouldn't be in that situation, right? You can't say that for everybody, but I can say that in big cities sometimes the mental health services, we're in crisis. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
You can look at San Francisco, what they've got going on there. I've been seeing some things there, and just check with your city, check with those mental health providers, and see what happens every weekend, and see if all the beds aren't full, right?
Right.
And people don't just walk in and say, I need to take a nap. You have to be diagnosed, and or you have to go through an assessment to end up in a mental health facility. So if people are there, they need to be there. And if it's full, then there's some other folks that probably are out and about, which you can run into that, you may have to say no as politely as possible and exit to the left, So my hat's off to people like you and me that are in the public eye.
Yes.
And, and some people, believe it or not, they're delusional and they think there's more of a connection there than there is. You hear it all the time with celebrities, and people that are, are way more famous than we are, that, people think that they're talking to them or they're talking about them, and then they, try to do things to people. So, it's a lot of things out there. You just have to be mindful of who you are talking to may not be at the same emotional or mental health level that you think they are. And just, your actions speak so loudly. I can't hear a word you're saying. I'm looking at those actions. I'm looking at the situation. There's a reason why I say that at the end of every show.
Yeah. I posted something that took some traction, and I didn't think it would. Because people always want to talk to people. We never take the time out. I posted, if somebody reaches out to you to vent, take the time and listen. You might be all they got. And
I love that post.
And that thing just took off. I just seen it and I said, hey man, this is what it's all about. Because sometimes people just want to vent to get it off, and you have to be a listener. If you can listen, they're not looking for nothing for you to say something about, okay, what you going, all they want to vent and for you to listen. And it could be a done deal. They feel better, they go on the merry way. But so much time, we don't take the time out to listen to our spouse. And something's wrong with that. If you can't listen to your spouse, then something's wrong.
Well, I'll say this. If you're not doing self-care, if you're not healthy, then how are you going to have the bandwidth to listen to somebody else?
Yeah.
See, it's a lot more, and this ties into exactly what we were talking about earlier. Why it's important to have boundaries, why it's important to not be exhausted at work. Because if you're exhausted at work, you're not going to have a burst of energy when you get home to talk to your spouse. And let's just be real. Most people, when they're exhausted at work, when they are going through something, the last thing they want to do is come home and listen to more problems. So that's kind of how how that can happen, right? So you want to make sure you're all right, Ron. Want to make sure you're good,
No,
man.
I just
Take a minute.
got a bug down there.
I
The,
understand. I
the
understand. Make
allergies,
sure
the
you're good
allergies.
over there.
I don't know what's going on out there in San Antonio, but it's some stuff out there. So we're
Hey
talking
man, drink
about,
that Texas tea with that honey. That
yeah.
Texas honey that helps. Yeah.
Now we were talking about burnt out, depression, and all that, and we try not to be as political as possible, but sometimes they go hand in hand. Like, for instance, everybody knows that Trump was indicted again yesterday, and he has his followers. I called him from the beginning a cult leader. I'm trying to find that segment when we did that, Joseph, so I can go ahead and play it back for everybody. That was years
Yeah,
ago.
it
And
was.
now,
It
and
was.
now, and now it doesn't matter what he does. No matter what he does, they're going to support him through thick and thin. Even though he is guilty as anything else, they don't see it that way. They see that we picking on somebody who is they put him on a pedestal. They got him up there high on the pedestal. So no matter what he says, they believe. And so somewhere down the line, some of the people are going to need some help, mental help, because
Yeah.
because when it
Yeah.
happens,
I
go ahead.
yeah. I think you're right. I think at some point when the snow job is over, when the con is over, I think people are going to realize their role in helping to dupe themselves. I don't know who said the saying, but I think it's relevant. I think that some of the easiest people to mislead are the people who want to go down that road, right? And there's a lot of people that are frustrated with the course of the country and feeling that they've lost their entitlements or things are not going the way they think that it should go, and they think that for some reason Trump has some answers for them. But from a person that kind of grew up in the hood to then going over to middle class, upper middle class environment, I've run across folks like Trump in the hood. They're called hustlers, and they would tell you whatever you want to hear to try to get what they want to get from you, right? And the colleagues of Trump up in New York, his so-called cohorts that were business folks or whatever, they used to say that they didn't really consider him really a true entrepreneur, a true a person worthy of his so-called stature in life, because they knew how he got his money. His dad was just giving him millions of dollars by the age of 19 through loopholes. Just look at the history of this guy, right? Just look at the history of Trump, and you'll understand how he became who he is. I think the dangerous part here is a couple of dangers. These are some pretty serious charges. I don't think people understand what this means in history. When you look at the charges that he's facing, I think some of the charges are conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy against rights. These are some pretty tough, hard charges. These are some pretty significant charges from a president. From a president. Now, I know people say that, Trump say that, the Department of Justice is weaponized and all that. I think Biden has taken great stances, great, precautions in trying to not be political. He hasn't even responded to the indictment, right?
Right.
But I think what people have to understand is there's consequences to who you support. And I'm going to tell you something. We have not seen all the consequences. People are starting to see, and I feel bad for the guy
his work was working for Trump. What's the guy down there from, I think from Portugal, that probably didn't have a good understanding. He was just trying to work for his boss and saying the boss wanted, the tapes, the surveillance tapes deleted and all that. Look, you got to understand, some hustlers know who to hustle. Hustlers know their target. And he even, what's crazy about this is, Trump even said that he could do whatever he wanted, and he said that the Republican Party would be so stupid that they would follow him, and they're doing it. And it's like, I'm kind of like, what can I say? He told you what he was, he showed you who he is, and you still don't want to believe what he's doing. And the scary thing about it is, I'm a student of history. Yeah. Political science was my undergrad. If you don't read Mein Kampf and read how Hitler came to power and just compare the two, just compare it. Somebody pick up a book and I'll be more than happy for you to come on to this show and you can debate with me on how you don't think Trump followed the blueprint that Hitler chose to go to power. Now, the only difference is Trump is possibly going to do it in reverse. Hitler started in prison. Trump's about to go.
Yeah.
That's the only difference. But the thing, how he attacked the media, how he demonized the group of people, how he played off of the fears of the German folk. Hey, he's got a playbook, and he's playing it to the T, and he's just doing what he does in plain sight. When the Jewish community was being carted off to concentration camps and killed, it started off by they were just being relocated to another place. Lies, right?
Yeah.
But when you started seeing the smoke from Auschwitz and Dachau, they've come to my classroom with the numbers on their how this thing came out. So not only do I know history, I've talked to those people that have walked that walk, that have been in some of those places. So understand, we're in a dangerous time, and Trump is, he may seem bombastic and ridiculous, but he's playing with some very dangerous things, and an example must be made. An example must be made. You cannot play with democracy like that. It's a very fragile thing that we have in the United States, and it has not believed and been realized by any stretch of the imagination. And they're trying to roll the clock back, if you watch, pulling things back like affirmative action. Women's rights, the rights are getting more and more limited, and the ridiculousness is trying to expand. That's what I see. Now, who's going to hold them accountable? I think the DOJ is being very meticulous. These last round of indictments, I think, are going to be very precise. They can move the trial very quickly. And let's see what they got. Let's see if our justice system is going to do what it's supposed to do. It's either going to do what it's supposed to do, or it's going to be a mockery. And we can't stand a mockery, because let's look at it this way. Let's just say Trump does not get convicted if this evidence is valid. It's a whole lot of people in prison that are going to be able to appeal.
Yeah.
Think about it. It's a whole lot of people that are sitting in prison waiting for Trump to get off, so they can be like, please contact my attorney right now, because I know I didn't have 70 indictments, and why am I sitting in here in prison, right?
Right.
Regardless of how many people, and what's crazy is you look into the arguments that the Republicans are putting out there, the GOP, it's a scary thing, man. It's called, if you look up transference, it's a psychological issue, a phenomenon, but just look up transference, where they're accusing people of doing what they're doing. They try to hide what they're doing. So they're saying that the Democrats are weaponizing the Justice Department, but they're weaponizing branches of government that should have nothing to do with the Justice Department.
Right.
Just look at it. I mean, like, we see you, dog. Like, we see you, right? Like, you aren't this is not going to work for you. So they're on like Custer's last stand. And I don't think it's going to go the way they think. You're right. People are going to need a lot of help. And you know what? I'll be right there to help them as a mental health therapist. And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to be very consulting. And that's a theorist in mental health that shows people exactly the current situation and very upfront. You know, and this is how Gestalt deals with it, you know exactly what you did. You know that you were following a fool, but you thought it was funny. You thought that, you know, the bombastic behavior and giving, you know, him doing what he was doing was going to have some type of positive effect, you know, but you knew the fat meat was greasy, and you knew what was going to happen at some point. So now you're going to have to stand in the category of those that were misled. And January 6th committee, I think, gave a little snapshot of what a lot of people are going to be ended up doing later on in life, going, hey, we were bamboozled, we were caught up in the moment, we didn't know what to believe. Excuse whatever excuse you want, but we know who Trump is. If you've been paying attention, we've been saying it for years, you know, for a long time on this show. And, I think that's why we got, shout out to all 20,000 folks that are listening on these multiple platforms. But I'm going to tell you something, tune into it. And I'm going to try to get it in here. The YouTube channel, JL's Impact Channel on YouTube. We're going to start getting into this. We only have an hour. There's so many more things that we want to get into. Tune into my wife's channel. I_am_Tiffany Lee. She's got some great things. A cancer survivor, 2-time cancer survivor, living her best life. And finally, the Lee's Overseas is, up and running. So, before the typhoon, and I think my wife even might have some typhoon footage of what is here. The beautiful and also some of the ugly. But I'll tell you something, man. This has really been a testament of my faith. Part of my practice is Christian counseling. And sometimes God will give you examples for you to look at. I think I've been pretty calm through a typhoon. And I kept thinking of the scripture when Jesus was talking to Peter in the boat, out there in that typhoon or hurricane. I don't know if you really understand how vicious water can look when it's going through something. But I just imagine, that fear being out on a boat in that situation, going, "Look, we about to die out here." But I was sitting in my place and I was pretty calm because of my faith, because of my foundation. Now, I'm not going to give my location out because people are crazy, even in Japan. And, yes, this is a sword back here. So I ain't playing. It's a demon slayer. Don't make me pull it up. But I realized that the Lord will show you how putting yourself on a solid foundation will hold up through storms. You've got to find that rock before the storm gets there. I was very meticulous in picking where we lived because I knew that these storms were coming. So I looked at the structure. I looked at how I don't know if you can see it, you can't see it, there's vents inside the building, inside the walls here, which allows wind to go through. So it keeps the building pressurized a certain way. There's corridors. This is actually, outside this window is a corridor with concrete. This whole building is built of concrete. So this building is designed to withstand a typhoon. And lo and behold, we get here, we're going through a typhoon. Most of it is blown over. And I was able to go to sleep through the typhoon. Why? Because we were in a place that was built for the weather. Okay? We have a constitution. We have people in our country that are built for the weather. We are built for the weather. I can say this as African American folk. We are built for this situation. We know what it's like to have targets on our back. We know what it's like to do without resources. We know what it's like to be versatile, to know how to hit the ground running. Right. My wife was like, "How did you get here dear, and you're able to learn how to drive on the right side of the car, on the left side of the street. Why? Because I had to. That's the simple answer, because God gave me the ability to adapt quickly. Some call it intelligence. I call it necessity. You know what I'm saying? You will figure out we've been adapting for hundreds of years.
That's
so
right.
Understand something. At a time like this, our skill sets are very needed. But you got to be healthy. You got to stand on your foundation, on your rock, and you can make it through the storms. I'm preaching today. I don't know why, but you can make it through the storms. We just made it through this typhoon, and you can ask my wife. I went right to sleep through the 100-mile-an-hour winds. Why? Because I knew I was on a solid rock. My faith is my rock. My education is my rock, and my experience is my rock. And that's it. So when I tell you, you're looking at a two-bit hustler that just happened to be president of the United States, I'm calling it like I see it. And I dare anybody to come on the show and show me why I'm not correct. And so we can have that discourse. So,
Right.
a two-bit hustler always gets a little bit of the truth and then stretches it to manipulate you.
Yeah.
So take a look at it. And it is nothing new. The scribes and the Pharisees back in the day, they tried to play Jesus the same way, right? So just read your text, understand what's going on, and more importantly, get the garbage out of the White House, not out of the White House, from getting in the White House. I do think that Biden's doing the best he can, but the man is pushing 80. Is he 80? I don't know. Is he 80?
I don't know. If not, he's
but
pretty close.
Come on. How many 80-year-olds you know that could be president? And, I think we have to look at that. I mean, I think he's maybe in a little bit over his head, but hey, considering the options, I'd rather ride with Biden than Trump any day. But anyway, that's just me.
Okay.
But
I have
we
one.
got to make a choice.
Yeah, somebody just, Martha just put out, if you don't know who you are, hustlers will get you.
Every time. That's what a pimp will do all the time.
Yeah.
That's what a pimp will do. And I don't want to call all the Republicans, getting pimped, but think about it. You could have an argument. I think 70% of the money that's going for his campaign is paying for his legal fees.
$40 million, and some states are running out of money right now before the upcoming election for whoever's running for Congress or senator. They're down under $100,000 now because they was feeding this guy.
So you call Trump a cultist. I want you to think about what a pimp does.
Exactly that.
He says.
Uses people.
I'm just gonna leave it like that. If you look at what a pimp does, what is Trump doing to the GOP?
Yeah. So,
Hey.
so switch gears. Since we're on that, I'd like to talk about Florida.
And the American public, not just the GOP, but the
Yeah.
American public. Talk about Florida. What's going on with Florida? Oh, my
Okay,
goodness.
3 major insurance companies moved out of Florida. They're not insuring their homes or anything. I was just reading the people he got together to get on Disney. They put their own people in there to do all that. Well, news came out today that dissolving that because they said it's unconstitutional, and for DeSantis to turn around and use race and all that against all that. So they pretty well dissolved that right there. So while he's out trying to make all the other states like Florida, people inside Florida had enough of him already. So I was telling my wife, I said, well, with this indictment on Trump right now, you're going to see the other states, the governors being like dictators, you're going to see that starting to crumble because enough is enough. People are fed up. And it's just not blacks. We got white people out there, too, that's fed up. But the problem with that is they're not speaking up. They're doing it only behind closed doors. So how can we solve this problem if on one hand in private, you're against him, then in public, you don't say either way. You just sit there with a smile on your face.
You know, I think this sums it up with DeSantis. DeSantis has lost his complete mind. And if you're a follower of DeSantis, I think you need to be evaluated. But don't call me because it's out of scope. You're not going to like what I have to say to you. But when a man says that there were some benefits to slavery,
Yes.
I have nothing but disgust. And I feel that you don't have the right to be in front of a platform anywhere, except for maybe a Klan rally. And that needs to be a terrorist organization and treated as such. So I don't know. What else can he say after he says that has any merit?
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, DeSantis and anybody like him is a plague. You can take him, you can take Abbott, you can put him on the bus to wherever, and they can go. Either one of them, okay? The bottom line is this. All of this stuff is not going to stand. Now, it's going to stand a little while in Florida because look at the demographics. And that's why he can get away with that foolishness. Because the folks down there that are fed up aren't fed up enough. But when people get fed up enough of the rhetoric, the racial undertones, and the ignorance and the aristocracy illusion, and the future of it, do you know what country you're in? The land of the what?
The free and home of the brave.
The home of the brave. You know what I'm saying? So you're in the wrong.
But it looked like
Ain't even necessary
There he
legally. I'm not trying, but be careful though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think Putin's figuring it out. If you lead with a strong hand, trust me, the people got the strongest hand. And eventually, they're going to escort you on up out of there. But I think just let them keep talking. Let DeSantis keep talking. Trump, he done provided all the evidence. All the evidence that they need to do what they need to do. Just run it. I think Biden is smarter than you think. He's just like, let the court system do what it does.
Yep.
How are you weaponizing the court system? If you're a criminal and you're a fool, you're eventually going to get caught. Even if you're a fool that people like, eventually you're going to get caught.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people, for some reason, like Trump. They do. I don't understand it, especially fathers that have daughters out here. I don't understand it. But there are a lot of people that are fooled by his charm, or whatever the case may be, whatever that charm is. But let's not forget, there's a whole lot of people that don't like him too.
True that.
So let's see how that works out. Justice is supposed to be blind. Let's just see if it's blind this time.
Amen to that. Woo.
So with that being said, hey, it's 10:16. I started early. I'm gonna leave a bit early. I feel good that the internet held up. And tell Glenn it was the iPhone all the way from Japan, baby. You got y'all. I don't think Android could have did this here.
Oh boy!
But but this thing cut off on me.
Yeah, and then he gonna really talk about you. So, all right, Joseph, will you be safe?
I know he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will you be safe
Anyway,
out there?
hey, man, it's always a pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah, hey, my faith is strong. The building I'm in is strong, and let's see. I'm gonna just look out the window and just look at how amazing God is, man. I look at this water, I look at the wind, I'm looking at the reports, and I'm right here in the midst of this. And God has got us protected and covered, man. Our lights are on. Hey, it's all good, brother. It's all good. But I'm telling you, have the Lord order your words, steps, deeds, and presence. That's been my prayer for 20 years. We have weather storms. My wife is a two-time cancer survivor, gone through it, and we don't even know about the first half of my life. If I told y'all about that, y'all really know something, why my faith is so strong.
Exactly.
But God is good. He's faithful. And he will do what he said he would do. He's like Marvin said, I think Fred Hammond said, he's not a man that should lie. Even in the midst of a typhoon, we eating good, living good, and only thing is I just don't have my internet. But I got an iPhone that still provided internet because I had a job to do. So, and I'm gonna lift him up. You know, I'm gonna lift up guys. So shout out to the Impact team. There's too many people to mention in this quick moment, but hey, love y'all. We about to do some things in the name of the Lord and clinical proficiency and life coaching. Check out the YouTube channel, JL's Impact channel. Look, we got 20,000 people listening. I need to see 20,000 people on that, subscribe to that Impact channel so we can put some programming. Let us know what you want to hear. If you want to hear more about depression, anxiety, some successful techniques. I had this workshop I wanted to do from concept to six figures. We've got all kinds of things we want to do in terms of helping to protect the kids. The GPS presentation is going to be coming out. School year is about to start. I'll be working with the Kappa League program in different Kappa League areas and connecting folks to other professionals, other CEOs, business owners like myself, for young cats that are out there. Well, that's what young folks out there, young guys out there that think they wanted to do something, become a rapper, become a producer, become a business person, whatever. We're going to show them how it's done, the people that are doing it, right? And try to keep them from falling through some of these traps. We are in a dangerous time where they're trying to roll back the clock.
Yes.
Your children, I have to say this before I get up. I got about 10 minutes. For every child that's trying to go to college, they have to learn two things. They have to learn more than that, but two things specifically now, and I'm not seeing a lot of them. I'm concerned because I used to teach psychology when I'm back in the States. I teach psychology. You have to know how to write, and you have to have social skills. I'm not quite sure that people are learning how to write in APA format. Make sure your child knows how to write, because in college you're still going to have to do writing. Right. You're going to have to know how to express yourself and know what's going on in the world. Because when you get to school, they're going to have to take some government. They're going to have to take psychology. They're going to have to know how to write papers. You don't want them to get to college and start figuring that out, or it's too late, or it's going to be a lot harder for them, I guess I should say. So have your kids learn how to write. Get them off the video games and have them writing and some things and learning how to speak, to each other, speak to adults, get those social skills up. Social skills and mental health go hand in hand. How can I help your child if they can't talk?
Right.
And what happens is somebody's talking to them and you don't want to know who's talking to them on here. All right, so find out, talk to your kids, do table talk, sit down with them. Spend that one of those eights. One of those eights is supposed to be spending time with your family as well. So spend some time talking to your kids, find out what's going on before they have to talk to somebody like me and I have to tell you what's going on with your child. And it's usually not a good conversation at that point.
True that. So, I hear you on that.
There it is. So, hey, your action speaks so loudly, I can't hear a word you're saying, man. But, hey, sign in. Say it again. JL's Impact Channel. YouTube. We're going to have some giveaways. I think I'm going to give some Japanese stuff away to some folks. I'm going to do some type of contest to our next, 4 or 5 new subscribers. I don't know. I'm going to figure it out.
Okay.
Just sign in, and we're going to do some giveaways. We're going to do something. But I want to get people on there so we can, make some other things happen, get some feedback from folks, other things they want to hear, other mindfulness things, tips, things of that nature. And we're going to start having some workshops and stuff that we're putting together. So, going to get it together, man. But love doing this show, Ron. We've been at it for a minute.
I know it.
700 people to 20,000. Wow.
Yeah. And
they must like bald head. That's all I can say. They must like bald head.
Definitely bald head. All right, my brother. We signed on a little early, so I'm gonna let you go ahead and get your rest and let you have another peaceful night of sleeping over there.
That's
And
right.
I think the worst is almost over with. I looked at the radar last night when you told me it was sitting right on top of you last night, which was daytime for you, but nighttime for us. And this morning I checked it out, and it's still in there, but it's gradually moving away. So, but y'all hang tight in
Make sure
there.
your house,
What's that?
yeah, make sure your house is on a firm foundation, brother. That's all I can say. Make sure you got a firm foundation, man, because every house I have from here on out, it's gonna be built something like this.
I hear you.
Man, I done heard it. I heard it taking them blows, and all we was hearing was a little humming, and I look outside, and the rain was going up and down at the same time, going left and right. And I was like, Lord, you got me, so I'm going to sleep. So that's it.
All right, brother.
All
You
right,
take
now.
care until next week. I'm gonna give you a call later on because we got to adjust the show next week because I have to be somewhere. Well, be honest with you, I'm going to the dentist, and they were talking about doing some surgery. I don't know when, but I got to be there next week at 8:30 to find out what's going on. So we'll sign on a half hour early next week at 7 o'clock.
All right, yeah, we can see about that, man. Hey, stop saying them bad words, man. Dentists and all that stuff. I gotta get over there myself, man. I heard it's cheaper here in Japan.
Well, I'm gonna beat you to it. I'll let you know how it goes with me.
Maybe don't tell me, man. I don't need you to traumatize me. All right,
All right, brother.
man.
You
Talk
take
to you.
care. Talk to you later. All right, peace.
Peace.
We welcome everybody who listened to our guest today, and we appreciate you chiming in and let us know what's going on. If you have anything you want to talk about, please hit us up at 210-461-8034, or hit us up on our website, WSANradio.com, and we will be glad to have you come on board and be one of our guests. Thank you.